For those of you that are following the California wildfires, you know that our thoughts and prayers are not enough. It actually takes deeds and actions and organization and a great deal of courage to do what has to be done under the most difficult circumstances. And that's very much what this webinar program is about. At America-Israel Friendship League, we are bringing you twice a week these remarkable stories of friendship and connection. We want you to share them. You're going to have the opportunity today, for those of you here on the Zoom Live and on Facebook Live, to send in your questions. We'll try to get to as many as possible. Please let us know where you're calling in from, and if you want to send any special prayers and shout outs for the amazing first responders that are, every morning, every evening, around the clock, who are not just monitoring this, but are actually deploying and helping try to keep people, animals, property out of harm's way. We're going to get very much a briefing from the air and on the ground, and from multiple perspectives of the teams that have been battling this really now for all year. This has been a horrible crisis. So for now, what we would love is if you send us, and I'm already seeing these coming in now, greetings from Costa Rica, from Las Vegas, from Renana, from Kuwait, literally around the world, and we're grateful to have you all here. I think the best way to really set the scene for our episode today, we have a large panel, both from first responders and the CalFire team in California as we speak. But I really, for those of you that are regulars on this series, perhaps, you know that the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs is really coordinated, and we're lucky to have today Itai Bar Dov, who sits in Jerusalem and is the director of the U.S. Consulate's Department, but has a very unique perspective on our topic today, because he literally helped recruit the team and join them as part of the delegation that you're going to hear about momentarily. So Itai, tell us a little bit about what that feels like, and take us through, the process of recruiting the team and bringing them to California, and sort of handing off to Shlomi after you finish.
Great, thank you so much, Wayne. And I want to thank everyone who's joined us to hear the story. And I want to thank the Israel-American Friendship League for arranging this. I'll give a very quick summary of what happened. I got a phone call from our Consul General in San Francisco, Shlomi, who was with us on the panel. It was on a Tuesday evening, August 25th. And he told me, listen, there's these terrible, huge, California is experiencing huge wildfires, really terrible, really bad. We need to see how we can help our friends. And I said, whatever we can do, we don't have a large budget, but, I was thinking of if we can help in funding, or with giving some kind of, any kind of assistance we can give, whatever we can, we'd be happy to, equipment and so forth. The next evening, Wednesday evening, I got a call from him again. It was Wednesday morning in California. And he told me, listen, what they mostly need is boots on the ground. And as ASAP, as soon as possible. So I immediately called the Fire and Rescue Commissioner, Dedi Simchi, and told him, listen, there's a situation. We want to send firefighters. He didn't even hesitate for a second. He said, listen, we'll do whatever needed. Now, this was a very short period where we were trying to arrange something, so we couldn't arrange a very huge delegation, but he said, 10 men will arrange as soon as possible. The next morning, we got the names of 10 volunteers who, without even hesitating, immediately said they'd be happy to go and assist in the firefighting. And from that, now anyone who's familiar with government bureaucracy will understand that it was a miracle, a real miracle, because this was a Wednesday evening, and a Saturday night, 3 days later, we were, the whole delegation, on the plane on our way to San Francisco. And you need to arrange visas, you need to arrange plane tickets, you need to get different permissions. You have to work, we contacted the American Embassy, State Department, CalFire. I mean, it's just so many coordination that you need to do in a very short time. And just to reiterate, us, the delegation, those who were on the plane, we knew that we were coming back towards the high holidays in Israel, the Jewish high holidays. We knew we would need to be in quarantine for 2 weeks, because that's what the regulations in Israel say. When you come to Israel from overseas, you have to be in quarantine. But and Itzik and Midan will be happy to share the information. They got dozens and dozens of people who said, we want to go and help and assist our friends. And just one last comment. This wasn't just us helping the American side. And I recall in 2010, 2016, the United States sent us assistance. They sent a super tanker in 2010. They sent firefighters in 2016 when we had fires raging around in Israel in the northern part. And we were just so happy that we could assist our friends and help them and give back to what they gave us. So it was a great experience. Really, and we were greeted amazingly by CalFire, by EOS, the emergency services in California, and it was just amazing to see these experienced people, doing what they did.
So, Consul General Kaufman, Shlomi, as many call you, you're a friendly guy who is in San Francisco most of the time. What has it meant to get all this kind of attention? Given the suffering that's happening, to friends and colleagues around you, and what kind of collaboration have you seen that frankly only comes out in a crisis like this?
So thank you, Wayne, and thank you all for being on the call, and thank you to the listeners and to the watchers all over the world, in California, in Israel, in the United States. Look, it's. This project and the visit of the delegation is about solidarity and friendship, and big part of what we're doing is keep building the bridges, keep building the connections. And when the United States stands so many times next to Israel in so many different fronts, our role here on the ground is to see how we can, see if there are I would say opportunities or let's say, how can we stand with the American people when things are happening on the ground? And although we're talking about 10 people, but it's 10 people that made a difference in the places that they were, and 10 people that brought a strong message to the community here of friendship and solidarity and standing together. And the responses were fantastic. I mean, people saw we were the first one on the ground. And we saw an amazing, support from the community here, from all our partners, welcoming the delegation and really absorbing this act of friendship and solidarity with the people of California.
Well, we're grateful to have you there on the ground, and we hope that this mission won't be extended indefinitely, but the fact that you're there in time of crisis and able to provide resources from as far away as Israel, and we'll be talking with some of your colleagues who visited recently. But let's start with what the Israelis call a Tmunat Matzav, a picture of the situation on the ground as we're speaking. We're lucky to have Chief Scott Lindgren, who's the head of the Amador El Dorado unit, and physically is actually based at the moment at the McClellan Air Base. And so I saw from the pictures that preceded us earlier, Scott, you're actually monitoring the resources that are being sent out on a daily basis. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are physically situated now, and what the current situation is?
Yeah, good morning, good evening, wherever it is in Israel right now. The time change has gotten Nate and I messed up quite a bit, but so good morning from McClellan Air Tanker Base and the Amador El Dorado unit of CalFire. 9 o'clock briefing is just going on right now, and I'm showing you the ramp, the CalFire Amador El Dorado McClellan Air Tanker Base ramp. We've got the 747 right there with a P3, a DC-10, an MB-87, one of the National Guard MABS unit, a C-130, and a whole bunch of helicopters and stuff behind me. Actually, one of the brand new CalFire Hawks is getting ready to go for a little flight right now. And a couple of the CalFire Hueys are right next to it on the left. Kind of hard to see. I don't know how to zoom this in. And then there's an S2 air tanker coming in. What I'm showing you right now, this is the ramp for the aviation management unit of CalFire, where we do all of our scheduled and winter maintenance right here in these two hangars right here. And they're just adjacent to our airbase that I just showed you the ramp for that we run here at McClellan. When our Israeli partners and friends came to help us on the fires, one of the first things we did was come out here to my airbase and get a tour in and show what we do out here. And then the next morning we hit it real early and went out to the fires. So it looks like the CalFire Hawk's getting ready to take off now. But welcome everybody, and we're honored to be a part of this.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chief Lindgren. And I know you're going to be with us throughout the hour. So if there are scenes that you think that we should see on the takeoff or as we're with you, please feel free to use the Zoom in the background to give our viewers an opportunity to see it in real time. Let me cross over the ocean, quite a few time zones.
Sounds good. And then I have my Assistant Chief of Administration. Oh, I was just going to introduce Nate Barkley. He's my Assistant Chief of Administration, and he's here with me, and he was also part of the delegation that was here with our friends from Israel.
Great. And Nathan, you can't leave it all to the chief. I'm going to come back to you in a moment to share some impressions from the visit as well. So I hope you're not too camera shy. Let's part of what we're trying to display, today and give people some insights is how it works when people from different units, different trainings, different backgrounds, different cultures, different languages come together with a common purpose. And we're very lucky today to have the head of the delegation that came from Israel Fire and Rescue Authority, Itzik Oz. Everybody calls him Oz. And so however you want to sort of give us an insight of what it means to hit the ground and to need to be able to perform in different terrain, in a different environment than you're used to in fighting fires in Israel.
Hi, everyone. I want to say how it starts. It starts when, I think around the 25th of August, Israel Fire and Rescue Commissioner that simply called me and said, California is request assist to contain the major fire. And it told me prepare to dispatch a team immediately. It starts like this. And then I have the first problem because I was approved to build a team of 10 firefighters, and I have a lot of volunteers. I think that everyone from Israel, each firefighters want to come to assist to our best friend over the sea. For me, it was amazing time because I understand that I have to build a team. I have to create everything and to send them over the sea. You have to understand that we left our family for 15 days. And after that, we've been quarantined for another 14 days during the holidays. And you have to understand, to be firefighter in Israel and firefighter in the States, you act the same. It's the same fire that you are against them. And you have to do a little bit training, a short training with the CalFire. That's what we've done. And after, I think, one day, 24 hours, we've been on the field against the fires. So for us, if you are firefighting in Israel or a firefighter in the States, you have to do a short training and you become to be American firefighters, or if they're going to be in Israel, they're going to be Israeli firefighters. It's a short training.
Great. So we're going to come back because we're going to want to hear from everybody a little bit about what, what not only the first encounter is, but sort of how over the course of the 15 days, the group was able to bond and meet each other and learn from one another. Maybe we can come back to Assistant Chief Nathan, who we saw on camera briefly. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, this is obviously has the attention. I'm reading in the chat about people who have lost their homes, people who have been devastated by this fire. What was your impression when a group of, Israelis from halfway around the world showed up on your front lawn and said, take us to the front lines? What was that like for you?
It was kind of breathtaking and it was incredibly inspiring for myself and everybody here in the States, as well as all the civilians that either lost their lives or were affected by any of the loss. So it was more than just them coming to help fight the fires, as we talked about through the 14 days they were here. A lot of it was just the inspiration to see the cooperation between our two countries and just as humans and humanity.
Well, again, we get the sense from this that there will be a time to reflect on it. We're grateful to have the two of you here, recognizing that you're actually on duty and you're monitoring things as we speak, and we're grateful just to have this opportunity to have some insights, and we'll come back to the two of you in a moment with some questions. Idan, I know as first officer on this trip, working with Israel Fire and Rescue Authority in Israel, this is fire time in Israel as well this season, and so when you left to go, and knowing with the challenges that exist with COVID, what kind of how was that greeted by your colleagues in Israel when you said you were leaving, to head off to California?
First of all, we need to say that right now, a few days ago, we've got a wave of fires. So it's right, we are just in the middle of the season, like our friends from California. And they thought I'm crazy because to live in COVID time to another country that got hit by COVID and also fight fires in another country, which is way across the ocean, was something that it's not something regular in this time. All over the world, there's no traveling, there's no nothing, and to live in that time, our fire services and our home, and to go to another country to help was something that it was a surprise. I mean, most of them were really, really surprised, and they told me, they asked me, "You are not afraid?" I mean, it just travels so far away for that kind of operation, and said, "No, I'm not afraid. This is my job." And this is for our listeners also, by the way, that it needs to understand that there is a bond between firefighters internationally, and it doesn't matter if it's an American, Israeli, Mexican, Canadian, Indian, or whatever country. Firefighters are bound to each other to help all over the world. So no matter what country asks for firefighters, I believe that many countries will help each other. So that's need to be said, especially the US and Israel, that's got so strong connection.
Thanks, Idan. I think that's a really important point, that there is this sense that when a catastrophe hits, you can't control when and what the circumstances are, but the idea that you're not in it alone and that others are there to support you. Israel's been in that situation where it's felt alone over its history, and having an ally like the United States as a friend has been critical, and obviously this opportunity to pay it back, even in a small way, I think means a lot. But you touched on something really important that would be difficult even under the best of circumstances, if you can have the best of circumstances fighting a fire. Because of COVID, you now have additional safety and health precautions that firefighters have to take. And I wonder if Chief Lindgren, can you give us any insight just in the current battle for the fires are, I mean, what are the protocols? How do you keep your colleagues safe, not just from the fires, but frankly, from each other and from some of the people they're helping protect?
Yeah, that's Wayne, that's a really good question. It's got multi-parts to it and kind of hard to really answer. This fire season has taken such a big toll on our firefighters here in the United States and California, and CalFire specifically. A lot of our employees have been on duty nonstop since July, and with a small rotation of 24 hours off or 48 hours off here and there. So early on, we knew that we were in trouble this year, and it was going to be a long fire season. We had no idea that it would be as bad as it is, because it's always a bad fire season in California. And we always joke around in the firehouse that this is going to be the worst fire season ever. And it's an ongoing joke, but honestly, historically, this is the worst fire season on history. I mean, the August complex, which is one of the fires here in Northern California that our Israeli firefighting brothers came and helped us fight while they were here, is now over 1 million acres. And if you would have asked me this time last year if I would have ever dreamed or guessed that we could have a fire over 1 million acres, I would have said no way. I mean, because at the time our biggest fire was around 400,000 acres. So our biggest concern right now with CalFire is taking care of our people, really making sure that we're getting them some time off here and there and some time with their families. Luckily, I shouldn't say it, and I should probably knock on wood, but our fires have calmed down. We've caught some of them right now, and we're doing a lot better. We got some of our resources back into our home unit that have been gone for like 3 months, and so that was huge for us to be able to rotate some people back into the home unit and rotate them with some days off. But then we have red flag warnings again in California that started yesterday for the wind, and this is our big wind month, and that's what's so scary. And I tried to tell our Israeli brothers when they were here is we're worried about what October is going to be like. And October is typically our biggest wind month that we have in the state, especially in the North State, and also down in Southern California with the Santa Ana winds. And historically, some of our biggest fires have come in October. And then over the last few years, we had the Camp Fire that started in November that burned the town of Paradise and a lot of other houses and killed over 86 people. That was in November. And then the Thomas Fire in Ventura County was in December, just a couple years ago. And it was the largest fire on record until this year. So we're pretty worried about what the rest of what the fire season is going to bring in California, because we're just not sure. So we're trying to focus on taking care of our people and making sure that we're rotating them, getting them some time off. That doesn't mean that we're not fighting the fires by any means, because we definitely are. I hope that kind of answers your question.
It more than answers it, but it also gives us some, this recognition that this has been a long haul for you all, and it's been through this COVID period where you have the additional burden and additional challenges in that interaction. I just have to read, Chief, this note that came in from one of the listeners who, like many, have commented on the appreciation for having heroes and saving homes and lives. But this particular comment from Woody is actually aimed specifically at you, Chief Lindgren. Thank you to Chief Lindgren and his firefighting Air Force for literally saving our town and home from the Cranston fire. So we're in a situation where obviously each town, each home, each area that comes in harm's way, and I guess we're seeing a helicopter. You want to describe that, Chief Cranston? What we're seeing behind us?
Yeah, that was just one of the fire rescue helicopters from another agency that was here doing some training with our folks, and they were taking off. So I thought I'd get that. This is big for me. I'm not a computer guy. I'm not an internet or a Facebook Live guy. So Nate's been giving me some lessons here, and we're trying to give you some of the good shots. There's a lot of activity going on here at the airbase this morning, and we're anticipating, because we do have clean air, meaning that we have air that's good enough that has the visibility to fly aircraft today, that we're expecting it to be a very busy day at the airbase here. This airbase has already pumped over 4 million gallons of fire retardant just this season, and that's huge. The world record for amount of gallons of retardant that's been pumped is 6.4 million gallons, and we did that in 2018 here out of this base. So I hate to say it, but we're on track for another record-breaking year with fire retardant out of this base, and that's kind of scary. But I hope that answers the question.
It does, and for Israelis, that's 16 million liters. So I don't know if you have others that have come from other areas, other countries. Nathan, are you seeing other delegations that are providing support from other parts of the country and from other countries around the world?
Yeah, we as CalFire haven't seen any other delegations this year. I know Canada and Mexico also were working on sending a delegation when our Israeli brothers were here. But as far as CalFire, it's just been our brothers from Israel.
Yeah, in the past, we have gotten some firefighters from Australia and New Zealand that have come. And what was kind of, I'm probably jumping ahead on the questions, but what was really unique about this delegation that came from Israel is Israel sent, 10 of their best firefighters. These guys were in phenomenal fitness, and they showed up ready to put boots on the ground and ready to help us fight our fires. They didn't come for a tour. They didn't come for a vacation. They straight up came to jump in and help us fight our fires. And we haven't always had that before from other delegations. They come and they want to see what we do, and they want to watch and basically take a tour. But these Israeli firefighters, they stepped off their plane on Sunday morning, and they said, "What fire are we going to? We're ready to go right now." And it took us a day and a half to get them to a fire, but we had a lot of respect right off the bat for that they wanted to jump in and work with our crews and be a part of what we were doing to help fight these fires, and that was huge for us.
So, Itzik, let me switch back to you and Adon for a moment on that very point. What did it mean for these top firefighters from Israel, which an entire country is on the order of 350,000 acres, and you're fighting a fire that's 1 million acres. What did it even feel like for your team, to take on a disaster like this?
The master, first of all, for me, it was the first experience to see this kind of a wildfire, to see a burning line that something around 50 kilometers. It's amazing. It's different. And we met the special and really heroes, firefighters from America, from the States, from the CalFire. For me, it was a lot of learning how to act, what to do. And it was an amazing experience for me also.
Adon, there was a question that came from Stanley asking about what actually Israelis learned or stood out for you all in terms of how the American fire services operate. I know there are a lot of similarities, but what sort of stood out for you in terms of your takeaway?
First of all, I would like to say that I just want to cover a small thing before. I just want to say about Nathan and Chief Scott. Those and others are the guys that took us from the airport, from the OES, and then to the fires themselves. The operation with them, their dedication to the group, and the cooperation with them on the field, in the fires themselves was amazing. So Scott, I think Nate are a little shy right now, but I just want to mention it, and that I really miss the chief and Nate, and they know it. They are laughing, you see? They're laughing, and I really miss them because it was an amazing experience with you, and I would like to fight with you more fires in the future. And yes, it's a little different because our colleagues from the US are working with the teams of hand crews, which are teams of 12 to 13 people that are working only with hand tools and chainsaws inside the fires. So we did a little training with the guys. Scott and his team make sure that we are certified with our equipments and radios to their procedures. And then we got up to one of the areas of what calls right now the August complex. And it was, the first night was really amazing. It was really hot. It was the spot of the fire for that 24 hours. So the tactics was a little different from us, but we kind of really fast understand what the hand crew is all about and what is the operation is all about. It was amazing experience because we are doing things a little different here. We are working more with hose lines, which is another thing that Americans are also doing, but it's our mainly attack form of wildland fires, and it's a little different. And I took a lot of new things from our brothers from CalFire, and I think that then me and Chief Oz got a lot of new ideas that we are going to take for our fire services.
You know, in a moment, we're going to show CalFire was gracious enough to share a clip of us from the actual fire and from the trip. We'll put that up in a moment, but just to give people you know, a sense of what you were up against. So why don't we go ahead and run that, and then we'll talk about what it meant to be in this sort of you know, situation. Did you bring your own? There's a question that came in. Did you bring your own equipment, or was the equipment provided to you on the ground?
We brought equipment with us, but I would like to say that CalFire checked our equipment, and whatever we needed, the CalFire supplied us. I mean, amazing equipment, radios, whatever we need, even though we came with everything with us, but it needs to be certified to CalFire standards.
Understand. Okay, let's see if we can get that clip, and we'll give people a short taste.
They have this many people.
Valley 6. Yeah, they're basically going to be...
Doing okay? So, you kind of do shots. Shots will be going down. You hit the hot spot.
Oh,
so like
cool.
Pilot, there you go.
Nozzle control.
Yeah.
Doesn't show how steep it is.
Yeah, you don't need to do that.
Well, obviously, Chief Lindgren, you've been watching scenes like this, you know, for some time, and this is just a little sliver of a few trees and a small portion of a forest. Tell us a little bit about what we were seeing and what, you know, a team working together needs to do on a particular mission, like the one that the Israelis joined.
Yeah, that was a pretty good little clip, and that's just a little clip of about almost a 30-hour shift that they worked with one of our Amador Eldorado hand crews. And so what that video clip doesn't do justice is how steep it was. And Nate and I were both commenting on that when we were watching it. It was extremely steep. So they went out for a scheduled 24-hour shift with one of our firefighting hand crews, one of our CalFire Firefighter 1 hand crews from my unit, the Amador Eldorado unit. And they started out with a pretty gnarly, I don't know if that's a good word for translation in Israeli or Hebrew, but gnarly means just crazy, really extreme. A really gnarly hike that they went and about 2.5 miles in. And they went down through some really big timber and then over through a creek bed. And I think you got to see part of that creek bed where they actually had to help each other up over the boulders. That got them to the fire's edge. And then from the fire's edge, they cut direct hand line with their hand tools up that fire's edge all night. And they finished sometime around 10 or 11 o'clock that night. As they were doing it, they were bringing some fire with them. You saw a little clip of that. And to make that line direct so that it has nowhere for that fire to grow. And then after they finished that, tying in that piece of line, they did what we call a firing operation until 5 a.m. So they worked nonstop the whole shift with direct hand line that they cut, and then where they did a firing operation that tied into some roads and some other trails. And then after that, they drove out. It was kind of interesting because they're not used to, being on the fire line for 24-hour plus shifts like our folks are. And they didn't want to, initially when we started talking about it, they didn't want to do a full 24 out there because they didn't want to have a 24 off and then miss out on something. And so we said, hey, no problem. You get back, we'll get you some rest, and then we'll get you back in somewhere else. But they were physically drained after that, just like our folks were. It was a very taxing shift that they did, but a very critical one. They were on the hottest, most critical piece of fire line that the fire had at that point. So it was legitimate, very legitimate work there. We were very proud of them.
Itzik, I don't know if you want to translate the word gnarly into Hebrew or not, but what are your reflections in looking at the clip from that mission?
I told to my wife when I came back to Israel, I've been in the army for a couple of years. It was bad. I work a lot. And for us, it's a different way of acting the fire. But it was, I think the first day that we have been in the fire, it was, for me, it was amazing. It was different, but it was okay, no problem. And we wait for another season.
hopefully a short season.
Hopefully not, yes.
Hopefully a short season.
Don,
what are your reflections from that moment, looking at those first few days of the mission?
Totally agree with Chief Scott, because the first day was really crazy because we had a very stiff climb to do, and we need to stop the line, the fire line, with the guys in this mountain slope that we were climbing and actually walking next to the fire line. So we did a really decent job over there. I was really happy because I stood with the guys above one of the roads that look down on this cliff, and we saw the fire line was actually stopped. Then the entire night we did some preventative burns. So we kind of burned because we want the fire to not be able to cross the area that we burn. So it was also a really great experience. It was really it was tough shift, but it was really interesting, and we felt like we really are doing something like we came to do.
I want to go back to Itai for a minute, because Itai, when you told your family you were making a trip to California and accompanying this delegation, they're probably used to that given your role, but this was a different kind of mission that you were on. And when you look at the work that these firefighters were doing in this particular period, first of all, what kind of challenges? You referred to some of them, just even the transportation issues during COVID, etc. But what was sort of unique about putting together this group, and what do you think you've learned from it and been able to share in Jerusalem?
Well, first of all, I would say the best word for gnarly in Hebrew is balagan. Yeah, I haven't been traveling since COVID. Since COVID hit here and there, we haven't traveled. So when I and I told my family, I've got 3 small kids, and when I told my family that I'm going to be traveling to San Francisco, I think the first reaction was shock. where this coming from, and and we knew that I'd need to quarantine coming back, and that that's an extra difficulty. But I'd like to reiterate what our firefighters, the Israelis and the Americans, said. This was my first direct interaction with firefighters, Israelis and Americans. I've seen them, but never really interacted, and I was so deeply impressed by both, from the Israeli side and the American side. The Israelis, they came. I met them, Itzik, I was speaking to Itzik quite a few times before we met at the airport, but I met the whole delegation at the airport. And it was amazing when we arrived to California, we're all jet lagged. It's a 14-hour flight. Immediately we met with the folks from CalFire. The guys from CalFire who are extremely professional. What they wanted to make sure was that we're all on the same same line here. Everyone. So, like for instance, they gave us these pamphlets explaining. We use a metric system, so explaining the comparing meters and to yards and kilometers to miles and liters to gallons, so that we can all be speaking the same language. And say, and they were checking the equipment and going through everything. And from the Israeli side, I could just see how they were itching to go into the field and to start working. They're saying, all right, let's go and do it. But they, on the one hand, it was very important to prepare as much as you could. And on the other hand, they really wanted to go into the action and help. And I just saw a question that someone wrote about, the size of the delegation. And again, I just want to remind, first of all, we're coming from Israel in a very short span of time. And I think these were really 10 of the best firefighters Israel could provide, and chiefs and so forth. And we have a saying, they're saying, that who saves one life is like he saved an eternal life. And if this delegation saved, one life or one house, one home, or helped in preventing the spread of fires, and I think that's just great. And they did, and they did much more than that. They did much more than that. So I think it was really impressive for me. I was really impressed both by the Israeli firefighters and the American firefighters. These were real professionals.
Yeah, I should say, there's a comment in here from Linda that says, I'm so emotional listening to this. I live in San Diego and my sister is in Israel. We are so proud. I think, Scott, I want to direct that same question back to you, whether you think this group had an impact. It was a small group, but when you think about a group like this coming with the whatever challenges and needs, and how to deploy them in a way that's actually helpful for the moment. Sometimes when volunteers come from something, they could be more of a burden. But in this case, it sounds like, please describe what the impact for you was.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, you've heard us on this webinar column, our friends, our brothers, and like Dan talked about earlier, there's a bond with firefighters. It's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, and we all share in that. But it's actually much more than that. I mean, the time that we spent with these Israelis that came to help us, we became much more than friends and colleagues and coworkers. We became family with them, and it was really hard for us to see them go. I mean, they became part of our team. We had a lot of fun with them, a lot of hard work, a lot of discussions, some heated discussions too. I mean, there's some differences in how we do some of the stuff here in the United States or with CalFire than over in Israel, but they were all really good discussions. And so we bonded with them as part of our firefighting family. And it was extremely, extremely beneficial for us and our folks. And if I could just kind of recap, I don't know if this is the right time, Wayne, tell me or not, but I think it would be good to talk about what we did with the Israelis and what the plan was when they got here.
Please, yeah, sure.
And where they went. So when they first came in, obviously we were laughing earlier because we talked about, the political bureaucracy and all the pictures, and we kind of joked, and we should have said, well, we should have kept count of how many times people asked to take their picture. It was crazy. It was a lot. And initially them and us, we wanted to get down and to fighting some fire. And we wanted to get out there and get in the dirt and get to the fires and get past the bureaucracy, but we all understand the politics and how all that works. And so once we got them out and away from that, it was already it was past noon the first day that we were with them on a Monday. And all we had time to do was come out here to McClellan Air Tanker Base where we're at right now, that Nate and I, that you see in the background, and get a tour of what our operation is out here and answer questions. And then we got to go over all of their safety gear. They brought their own safety gear with them, but they didn't bring fire shelters. They used the same fire shelters that we use here in the United States. So they'd already been trained on those. So we issued them fire shelters. We made sure they had good boots and all of that. And then their radios were not compatible to ours with CalFire. They were very good radios. And in a lot of ways, we had some discussions. They're superior to our radios in a lot of way with the automatic locators that they have on them, the AVL that tells, where people are, and our radios don't do that. So that was something that we took as a cool thing from learning about their radios. And there are some of those radios in the United States, just with CalFire, we don't use those. And so we got them all squared away with their equipment and their gear. And then 4 a.m. the next morning, we were up and on our way to one of the fires up in Northern California out of Red Bluff that is now part of the August complex. And so I was calling around the different incident commanders throughout the state there's 6 incident management teams with CalFire that were all deployed on different incidents from the Bay Area, the Santa Clara area to Sonoma, Lake County, Lake Napa, Wine Country. They were kind of all over the state. And I was communicating with all those 6 incident commanders, and I wanted to find the most legitimate, best place to take them. And at the time, that was up in Northern California outside of Red Bluff. And just prior, and I think most people know this, but we had a big series of lightning come through, and we got 14,000 strikes that actually touched the ground in California. And obviously it ignited hundreds of fires. And we couldn't keep up with those fires, and we put most of them out. Probably 90% of them were put out really small. And then the ones that we just didn't have enough resources to got bigger and bigger. And then some of those fires even burned together. And so once we figured what incident we were going to go to, we got them on the road. We made it to briefing by 7 a.m. in Red Bluff, which was a feat. They got to see the incident briefing from the incident management team there at the fairgrounds. And then it was time to start getting them out on assignment. And we wanted them first to go with our CalFire Amador Eldorado Firefighter 1 hand crew and get to go on assignment with that, because that was different from what they do in Israel that Adon had already talked about. And so we got them out on that. That was a full 24-hour shift. They came back, we rested them, and then we started rotating them around. Probably half of the folks that came were actual officers in Israeli fire and rescue. And so we wanted to put them with some of our leaders on the incident, some of our division group supervisors, our operations chiefs, our branch directors, the incident commander himself, different folks like that. And so we kind of rotated around different positions. One of the Israelis that came with us works at the National Fire Academy and is in charge of logistics. And so we put him with our logistics people, because you can't fight any fire unless you can feed them and rest them and have bathrooms for them. And so logistics is super, super important for what we do. So we kind of rotated them around, and they did different things like that. And then they did a shift with one of our engine strike teams that laid some hose and did some mop up and held a line. And then they came back, and then our plan was to get them back into the Amador Eldorado unit, because they wanted to see our training academy, and they wanted to fight fire and ride with some of our engines on a day-to-day basis. So in our fire stations, because a lot of these guys from Israel were from fire stations, and they wanted to get into some of our fire stations with CalFire. And so we were going to head back on Sunday, but then they had such a good time with the Firefighter 1 hand crew, the first shift that they did with them, that we ended up doing one more shift with the hand crew. And then we got on the road and we got back up to my unit, which is the Amador Eldorado unit. It's 5 counties. It's Amador County, Alpine County, El Dorado County, Sacramento County, and San Joaquin County. And the beautiful portion of South Lake Tahoe is in there. So we got them traveled, and over here we came up with a plan. A couple of the officers rode with some of our law enforcement folks that do the fire investigation and the arson, Nate and his folks. And then we also put them with some of our battalion chiefs, and then some of them actually went on the fire engines in the fire station. And that was just incredibly awesome. They did a dinner for us one night with Israeli food, and they cooked it in the fire station, and we all came and had dinner there at the fire station, and it was just incredible food. I've got some videos of it that are just awesome, but and I'm sorry I don't know much about Zoom, so I don't know how to share those while we're talking. But so the rest of their
for those of us that have been at some of those dinners, I think we can picture exactly what you are talking about. And it's really, Chief, just to listen to the depth of this experience, and to hear you talk about these colleagues that came over as family and as long-term friends is amazing. I know, Shlomi, you were accompanying the group, and I'm curious what kind of impact you heard and saw locally or from other people in California as they learned about this, delegation being part of the community and part of the effort, to deal with the fires.
So it was amazing, Wayne, to see the level of exposure, the public, not only the public sphere, but the press exposure, the social media exposure, and interest in the story. And as more stories came out and more pictures came out through the time, we just saw the huge interest in the just in the story, the delegation that is visiting and fighting the fires. And the pictures said it all. I think the pictures were so powerful as we saw the video. As it was mentioned earlier, once the real work was done on the ground, we saw the pictures, we saw what's happening. It just exploded in terms of the exposure, the press exposure, and the social media exposure it got. So from all levels, I would say from the people whose houses were rescued to all the way up to the governor, and Cali as the support and the interest in this tremendous cooperation, which also leads to a lot of future cooperations. Was huge.
And Itai, I want to come back to that because sitting in Jerusalem now and reflecting on this, what do you see as the sort of impact of this group coming? You said earlier, you didn't really know Israeli fires, American firefighters. As you explain this to your colleagues in Jerusalem and in different parts of around North America, what do you think the impact of the particular delegation was?
Well, first of all, it's interesting you said, because next week we're going to have, first of all, an internal review and follow-up to this and see what kind of lessons can be learned on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs side, how next time, this happens, we can really, we work very fast, but it was, we had to make things up as we were rolling along, and we want to make sure that next time it will be more standardized. And then we're going to follow up together with the firefighters and other ministries and organizations here in Israel. And we'd be happy to, we're planning to speak also with the American side to make sure that we have something on board next time. It's just, you just switch, you flip the switch and you're ready, you're prepared to go. I think we've learned a lot of lessons ourselves. We're going to definitely follow up on this and see, make sure that we're better prepared next time. I've learned a lot of lessons from this, not just, knowing who, because there are other emergencies that we can assist or be assisted, not just when it comes to fires, earthquakes, hurricanes, different things, and from different groups here in Israel, where we'd be happy whenever our friends in the United States are in need, we'd be happy to assist whatever we can. So we're going to definitely move forward, discuss this with the American side. and make sure that we have a plan already in place whenever it's needed in the next time, whatever happens next time.
Yeah, and I think that last point you made, Itai, about potential other areas of cooperation is a critical one, because obviously you don't always get to call in advance what the disaster is that you're dealing with. We're coming up on the top of the hour. Unfortunately, that zoomed by, as we say, pretty quickly. But I do want to go back to the four firefighter panelists to give them just sort of a final word on the experience. And it's I know, wearing a different kippah, a different hat, you are dealing with a lot of crises at the moment on the home front, including the fires that Idan referred to. What's your big takeaway from this experience as you are dealing with crises and humanitarian challenges currently on the home front?
What to take? It's a big question, because yesterday I've been with my commissioner and I tell him what I done in California. We provide him something, so I get a lot of lists what I have to do now. So I take a lot of things from them. First of all, I take the friendship between our states and from our firefighters in CalFire. And I take a lot of things that I can do also in Israel. And I know that I can assist everything, every time, whatever I think to go, because I don't know if you know, but during the last 2 years, we send a delegation to the States, to California, we sent to Ethiopia, we sent to Russia, and we sent to other countries. That's we know what to do. And I think now that I know that I have a good friends out of the state in California, we can get assist from them also.
Great. Idan?
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to say that I would like to, unfortunately, fire will happen because the climate is changed, and I'm not that positive that we are not going to see fire, even though we are hoping to not see more fires. But I would like to say that right now, I would like further cooperation with our brothers from CalFire. I would like to help them in the future. And I would like both of our firefighters to train together, because yes, as Itai said, and also as Oz and Shlomi and also referred to, I would like if there will be fires next year, I would like to see our firefighters coming there to help Scott and his guys, and be ready and prepared really fast, with equipment, with everything, same language, same terms, everything is ready. He just asked us to come, and we can go help, and the other way around. So this is what I'm looking at, further cooperation and further operations together. And Scott, I'm still going with my protection against COVID, so it's also dedicated to you.
That's great. That's great.
But you have to ask Scott. What about the black coffee, Scott? You didn't say nothing about the black coffee, the Israeli coffee.
The coffee. I love it. I love it. I talked before you got online with Shlomi, and he sent me a little bit, and I had to hide it from Nate. The Israeli coffee has spoiled me. I don't like the American coffee anymore. I'm hooked.
Wayne, just for you to know, Wayne, if there was no COVID right now, I think that the things that we all talked about, I think will happen much faster, but we have COVID, so no further visiting right now, but I'm really positive about it.
We understand it. I think if I heard correctly, Don, you were extending an invitation to Nathan and to Scott to come visit you in Israel when they're done with their current. They already got it, and also Itzik talked about it many times in the delegation itself. But we're really expecting to it. Great. Well, unfortunately, we're at the end of our hour together. This has been a fascinating insight from all of you. Thanks to all the panelists. Thanks to our hosts for making this happen. we're proud of you guys. I mean, we're, as we say in the old country, we're kvelling. We know that what you've done has impacted on the lives of countless people and critters and communities, and all of those things matter. And as we know, it's too early to celebrate. We're in the midst of a crisis, and we're with our brothers and sisters in California as they're going through this. This was a small opportunity to just to understand a little bit about what friends do during hard times, and we're proud of this effort. We're proud of our partners at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who help make it happen and help share the story, and we're looking forward to continued collaborations so that we can all do the things that we do the best. So at American-Israel Friendship League, we're going to continue our series. It started with this idea of friends in deeds, because there are deeds that need to happen with friendship. It's not just merely celebrating. It's not only the meals. We look forward to that, but in times of crises like this, whether it's on the medical fronts or on the military fronts or in the humanitarian assistance fronts, we know that the America-Israel friendship is something that really has incredibly strong bonds. Thanks to everyone. Please be safe. Come back to our episodes. We have a great program every Sunday and every Wednesday. And we want everyone to be safe, and we want everyone, to continue to join us and learn more about this amazing relationship. Have a safe and great week, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, Scott. Thanks. Shlomi.
Bye.